Hey, Mama, you're listening to Lift the Shame. I'm Crystal Carcass, mom of five, registered dietitian, lactation consultant, and a mother in eating disorder recovery. This is a space for mothers who are still healing while raising their children. The mothers who want to break cycles, soften shame, and raise intuitive eaters while still learning how to care for the tender parts of themselves. Here, we talk about food, body image, motherhood, repair, and what it means to practice recovery in real life. We do not have to be fully healed to be a good mother, and you do not have to carry this alone. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about control, not control in the abstract, not control as a concept, but that specific moment when something inside of you tightens, when your child asks for more dessert, when the pantry feels too available, when snacks feel chaotic, when your body changes in a way that you did not expect, when a meal doesn't go according to plan, when your child's appetite feels unpredictable, or when your own hunger feels inconvenient, when life feels too loud, too much, too uncertain. And then there's this part of you, the part that wants to grip, the part that wants a rule, the part that wants a plan, the part that wants to know exactly what will happen next. The part that believes if you can just manage the food, manage the body, manage the schedule, manage the portions, manage the pantry, manage the moment, maybe you can feel safe. And if you are a mother in eating disorder recovery, that part can feel so painful to notice because maybe you know what control has cost you. Maybe you've worked so hard to loosen your grip. Maybe you've spent years trying to unlearn food rules, body surveillance, rigidity, and fear. Maybe you believe deeply in raising children who trust their bodies. Maybe you want your home to feel different from the one you grew up in. Maybe you want food to feel peaceful. Maybe you want your children to experience freedom. And still, there is a part of you that clings to control, and you might hate that. This is the hidden shame I want to name today. The shame of realizing that part of you still wants control, even when another part of you knows control is not the same thing as safety. Maybe this part shows up around your child's eating. Maybe it shows up around your own body. Maybe it shows up around exercise or meal planning. Maybe it shows up around the pantry, the scale, the mirror, the family photos, the clothes that don't fit, the school lunchbox, the birthday party, the holiday meal, the vacation, the swimsuit, the unknown. And when it shows up, maybe shame says, you're backsliding, you're failing, you should be past this. You're still disordered. You're going to pass this on. You cannot trust yourself. But friend, I want to offer another way to understand this. What if the controlling part is not your enemy? What if the part of you that clings to control is not the worst part of you? What if it's a protector? A part of you that learned somewhere along the way that control was the closest thing to safety you could find. Maybe control helped you feel powerful when you felt powerless. Maybe control gave you structure when life felt chaotic. Maybe control gave you a sense of identity when you did not know who you were. Maybe control gave you a way to manage anxiety you didn't have language for. Maybe control gave you something to hold on to when your body, your family, your emotions, your relationships, your faith, or your world felt uncertain. Maybe control was not the original problem. Maybe control was the strategy. Maybe it was the way a younger part of you tried to survive. And if that is true, then the goal is not to shame that part into silence. The goal is to understand what she is trying to protect. Because when we only say, stop being controlling, we miss the tenderness underneath. We miss the fear. We miss the grief. We miss the younger self who learned that letting go meant being vulnerable. We miss the part that doesn't yet know there are other ways to feel safe. This matters so much in motherhood because motherhood is full of things we can't fully control. We can't control every bite our children eat. We can't control every body comment they hear. We can't control every food rule they encounter at school. We can't control how their bodies grow. We can't control their appetites, preferences, sensory needs, hunger cues, fullness cues, or relationship with food. We can't control every grandparent comment, every birthday party, every sleepover snack, every classroom reward, every comparison, every cultural message. And we cannot control our own bodies in the way we may have once believed we could. Pregnancy changes us. Postpartum changes us. Breastfeeding or not breastfeeding changes us. Sleep deprivation changes us. Stress changes us. Aging changes us. Perimenopause changes us. Grief changes us. Life changes us. And when you have an eating disorder history, all of this uncertainty can feel like a threat. So, of course, the controlling part comes forward. Of course, she says, let me handle this. Of course, she offers rules. She scans for danger. She wants to make the unknown smaller. She tries to bring order to what feels overwhelming. Not because she's bad, because she is scared. And maybe instead of meeting her with anger or disgust, we can meet her with curiosity, not obedience, curiosity. There's a difference. Obedience says, you are scared, so we will restrict. You are scared, so we will micromanage. You are scared, so we will comment. You are scared, so we will make a rule. You are scared, so we will shrink. Curiosity says, I see that you're scared. I want to understand what feels unsafe. I'm not going to let fear make the decision for us, but I'm also not going to shame you for showing up. That, my friend, is such a tender shift because many of us are used to swinging between two extremes. Either the controlling part takes over, or we attack ourselves for having it. We either grip harder or we collapse into shame. But healing asks for another way, a way where we can say, there's a part of me that wants control right now. That part makes sense. And that part does not have to lead. Maybe the moment is your child asking for another snack. The controlling part says, no, they already ate. This is too much. We need a rule. But the compassionate adult part of you can pause and ask, what is actually happening here? Is my child hungry? Are they tired? Are they seeking connection? Do they need more structure? Do I need to offer a snack without turning this into a body story? Do I need to set a kind boundary? Do I need to breathe before I speak? Maybe the moment is your own body changing. The controlling part says, fix this, do something, tighten up, track, monitor, make a plan. But the compassionate adult part of you can ask, what feels scary about this change? What am I afraid this means? What care does my body need right now? What support do I need so I don't have to respond from panic? Maybe the moment is a family meal or connection with people you love. The controlling part says, this is too chaotic. They're eating too much sugar. They're not eating enough protein. This isn't balanced. This isn't okay. But the compassionate adult part of you can ask, is this actually dangerous? Or is this unfamiliar? Is this my value? Or is this my fear? What kind of food environment am I trying to create? What would help me stay present instead of policing? Friend, this is not easy work because control often feels like relief at first. It gives us something to do. It gives the anxiety a job. It tells us we are preventing something. It tells us we're being responsible. It tells us we're protecting our children. We're protecting ourselves. But the relief control offers is often temporary because the more we control, the more fragile safety becomes. The safer we need everything to be before we can breathe, the more our children's normal eating feels threatening, the more our own needs feel suspicious, the more our bodies feel like problems to solve, the more life has to cooperate for us to feel okay. And life doesn't always cooperate. Children don't always cooperate. Bodies don't always cooperate. Recovery doesn't always cooperate. So the work becomes learning to build safety that is not dependent on control. Safety in our bodies, safety in our relationships, safety in repair, in support, safety in being able to say, I'm activated right now and I don't have to act from it. Safety in being able to come back. I think sometimes we imagine healing as finally letting go of control forever, but maybe healing is quieter than that. Maybe healing is noticing the controlling part sooner. Maybe healing is putting a hand on your chest before responding. Maybe healing is saying, this is fear, not truth. Maybe healing is taking a breath before making a food rule. Maybe healing is choosing a neutral phrase with your child, even while your insides feel loud. Maybe healing is texting someone safe and saying, I'm spiraling around food today. Maybe healing is going to a support group and saying the things you feel ashamed to admit. Part of me still wants control. And hearing other mothers say, me too. That is why community matters so much, because shame wants us to believe we are the only ones who still feel activated, the only ones who still have food fear, the only ones who believe in freedom for our children but struggle to feel it in ourselves, the only ones who want to raise intuitive eaters and still panic around snacks, the only ones who want to be gentle but still hear the old voice. But you are not the only one, and you do not have to exile the part of you that clings to control. You don't have to let her run the home, but you also don't have to hate her. You can begin to relate to her differently. You can say, I know why you're here. I know you're trying to protect us. I know you learned control a long time ago. I know letting go feels dangerous, but I am learning another way now. We are learning safety that doesn't require shrinking. We are learning care that doesn't require rigidity. We're learning structure without shame. We're learning boundaries without fear. We're learning nourishment without negotiation. We're learning how to be with uncertainty without handing everything over to the eating disorder. And maybe the controlling part doesn't relax all at once. Maybe she only loosens one finger at a time. Maybe she needs repetition. Maybe she needs evidence. Maybe she needs support. Maybe she needs to see that when you don't obey every fear, you don't fall apart. Your child doesn't fall apart. Your home doesn't fall apart. Your body doesn't become the enemy. You can feel fear and still choose differently. You can feel the urge to control and still pause. You can feel activated and still repair. You can be in recovery and still have parts of you that are catching up. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. It means healing is happening in layers. So today, I want to leave you with one small practice. The next time you notice the urge to control around food, your body, your child's eating, exercise, snacks, sugar, or anything else that feels charged, pause and ask, what is this part of me trying to protect? Not what is wrong with me, not why am I like this, not how do I make this part go away, but what is this part of me trying to protect? Maybe she's protecting you from judgment, maybe from body shame, maybe from feeling out of control, maybe from the fear of watching your child suffer, maybe from being unseen, maybe from feeling like you're too much, maybe from the old pain of not feeling safe in your own body. Once you notice that, you might gently say, thank you for trying to protect me. I know you're scared, but control is not the only way we can feel safe now. We can choose care, we can choose support, we can choose repair, we can choose one steady breath before we respond. Friend, the part of you that clings to control is not the enemy. She's the part of you that needs care, and she doesn't have to lead alone anymore. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this conversation names something you've been carrying quietly, I'd love to invite you to Lift the Shame, my free monthly support group for mothers and moms to be in eating disorder recovery. It's a gentle space to be with other mothers who understand this overlap: motherhood, recovery, food, body image, control, feeding triggers, and the fear of passing it on. You can find the link to join in the show notes. And just remember, you don't have to carry this alone. Until next time, I'm here with you and I'm cheering you on. Bye for now.